Today, the Christmas Strangler decides to ruin Christmas for so many. Who can you trust when panic is everywhere? Try not to get too choked up on this Christmas nostalgia. The quaint town of Everwood was usually a haven of holiday cheer, but this year a palpable tension hung in the air. The Yuletide spirit was overshadowed by an ominous presence of the Christmas Strangler. Every news channel broadcasted updates, newspapers blared headlines, and online forums buzzed with anxious discussions about the elusive Strangler who seemed to vanish like a ghost after each crime. Henry, an unassuming artist with a studio nestled on the outskirts of Everwood, found himself immersed in the collective fear gripping the town. His studio, usually a sanctuary of creativity, now felt like a refuge from the ominous tales circulating through the community. The Christmas Strangler had become the faceless spectre haunting the streets, leaving residents locking their doors and peering anxiously through the curtained windows. News reports spoke of the Strangler's methodical attacks, each victim found without a single trace of evidence. The airwaves echoed with ominous warnings, urging people to stay indoors after dark. Everwood, once a lively town adorned with festive lights, now wore a somber cloak of fear. One chilling evening, as Henry worked diligently on a painting in his dimly lit studio, the hushed whispers of the Strangler reached even the solitude of his creative space. The radio crackled with a news update, dealing the latest incident that occurred not far from his neighborhood. Henry's hands trembled slightly as he dipped his brush into the paint, the canvas absorbing the anxiety that pervaded the atmosphere. Amidst the fear, a knock echoed through Henry's studio. Startled, he approached the door cautiously. Peering through the peephole, there stood Olivia, a woman he had occasionally seen in the neighborhood but had never formally met. Her eyes were wide with terror, and her voice trembled as she spoke.
I'm sorry to bother you, but can I stay here? Just until the morning?
Olivia stammered, glancing nervously over her shoulder as if expecting the Strangler to materialize in the shadows. Henry, though taken back, felt a twinge of empathy for Olivia. The collective fear had driven her to seek refuge, and he couldn't turn her away. "Of course," he said, opening the door wider. "Come on in, you'll be safe here." As the door closed behind her, Henry couldn't shake the irony of the situation. Little did Olivia know the very man she sought protection from was working tirelessly to unravel the mystery of the Christmas Strangler, a mystery that would soon reveal a darker connection than anyone could have imagined. The news of another victim spread like wildfire through Everwood, intensifying the town's collective fear. The Christmas Strangler had claimed yet another life, this time in the heart of a busy neighborhood. The woman's life was snuffed out just moments before her husband returned home, leaving the police baffled and the community on edge. Reporters swarmed the crime scene, their presence exacerbating the anxiety that permeated the town. The husband, a distraught man in shock, shared his harrowing account with the media. He had been away for a mere 15 minutes, and in that short span, the Strangler had struck. The news outlets seized on the perplexing details, and the public demanded answers. As fear tightened its grip on Everwood, Henry found himself at the epicenter of the unfolding tragedy. The whispers of the Strangler's heinous acts echoed in every corner, and even within the confines of his studio, Henry couldn't escape the palpable tension. Olivia, who had sought refuge in his space, clung to the hope that the sanctuary Henry provided would shield her from the menace that lurked outside. Driven by a mix of empathy and growing need to confront the darkness that enveloped the town, Henry decided to take matters into his own hands. In a conversation with Olivia, he expressed his frustration with the unsolved crimes and the apparent helplessness of the authorities. If I had the chance, Henry mused, his eyes reflecting a determined glint, I would set a trap for the Strangler, catch him on camera, and expose him for what he is. Olivia, though gripped by fear, saw a flicker of bravery in Henry's eyes. She nodded in agreement, recognizing the sincerity in his words. Together they formulated a plan to set up hidden cameras around the town, leveraging Henry's skills as an artist to disguise them as ordinary objects. Motion-activated cameras would be strategically placed in areas frequented by the Strangler, capturing any suspicious movements during the night. As the town mourned the loss of another innocent life, Henry and Olivia worked in secret, driven by a shared determination to unmask the elusive Christmas Strangler. The pressure on the police intensified, and the community's desperate plea for justice hung in the air like a heavy fog. Little did they know that their quest for truth would lead them down a dark path. The moon hung in the sky like a cold, distant witness as Henry moved stealthily through the quiet streets of Everwood, setting up the hidden cameras that would hopefully expose the face of the Christmas Strangler. The eerie silence of the night intensified the unsettling atmosphere, and the only sound was the soft click of cameras being strategically placed. As Henry adjusted one of the cameras near the desolate alley, a chill ran down his spine. The air felt thick with an unseen presence, and the darkness seemed to close in around him. Ignoring the unease, he continued his task, his breath visible in the frigid air. Suddenly, a noise disrupted the stillness. A guttural groan. Heavy breathing and a distant shuffle of footsteps emerged from the shadows of the alley. Henry's heart quickened, and a bead of cold sweat formed on his forehead. He turned to leave, but the noise persisted, echoing through the narrow passage. He quickened his pace, the footsteps matching his hurried steps. Panic set in as he heard a voice, low and menacing, carried on the icy breeze. "I'm coming for her." A shiver crawled up Henry's spine as the word reached his ears. The darkness seemed to cling to him, and the relentless breathing grew louder, an ominous soundtrack to his desperate escape. With each passing moment, the groans transformed into malevolent whispers, fueling the terror that gripped him. He sprinted through the winding streets, the daunting sounds echoing in his ears. The once familiar town now felt like a labyrinth of nightmares. He could almost feel unseen eyes watching his every move. As Henry reached his studio, breathless and trembling, he slammed the door shut behind him. Olivia, wide-eyed with concern, met his gaze. The air in the studio hung heavy with an unspoken fear as Henry tried to compose himself. I heard something out there," Henry panted, struggling to find the right words. "Someone or something is following me. We need to be careful." The ominous encounter in the dark alley had cast a foreboding shadow over their mission. Unbeknownst to Henry, the trap they were set in was drawing the Strangler closer, unraveling a sinister connection that tied the artist and the very darkness he sought to expose. The night hung heavy with a suffocating tension as Olivia clung to the edges of fear, her eyes wide with terror. Henry, still catching his breath from the unsettling encounter in the dark alley, tried to reassure her. "No," he declared, a hint of determination in his voice. "I have cameras everywhere, in the hall, at the doorway, the ring bell, outside. No one can get in here without me seeing them. We're safe here." But Olivia, her nerves already frayed by the Strangler's reign of terror, couldn't shake the persistent feeling of impending danger. The realization that their pursuit of the elusive killer had inadvertently led him to their doorsteps fueled her anxiety. As the night wore on, the couple huddled in the dim-lit studio, anxiously awaiting the dawn that seemed reluctant to arrive. Olivia stole glances at the windows, half expecting shadowy figures to materialize in the inky darkness outside. "We'll be okay," Henry murmured. his attempts at reassurance falling flat in the face of Olivia's escalating unease. The haunting words from the alley lingered, echoing through their shared silence. The next day, after a restless night, Henry and Olivia braved the daylight to review the footage captured by the hidden cameras. Anxiety clawed at them as they fast-forwarded through the recordings, searching for any sign of the Christmas Strangler. Then, on one of the screens, a blurry and ominous figure emerged. Dressed in black, with the black ski mask concealing their features, haunted the footage. The camera barely managed to capture the twisted image, but the terror in the eyes was unmistakable, possessed with evil. They froze, their breaths catching as a realization set in. The Strangler had left his mark on their surveillance, a chilling testament to their shared pursuit. Henry, realizing the gravity of the situation, decided to take the evidence to the police. The news of the haunting image spread like wildfire. The press clamored for details, and the police launched a feverish campaign to identify the mysterious figure. However, as the story hit the newspapers, a troubling revelation emerged. The article named Henry as the supplier of the incriminating picture. "Damn it, Henry," Olivia explained, her voice a mixture of fear and frustration. "Now he knows you're trying to track him, and he knows where you live. He'll come for you." Henry, though aware of the potential danger, remained resolute. "No chance. This place is well protected," he declared, determined to stand his ground against the encroaching darkness. Little did he know that the pursuit of the truth would lead them all down a path where the line between predator and prey blurred, and the true face of the Strangler began to emerge from the shadows. As the night descended upon Everwood, a sinister encore played out in the shadows. The news of another Strangler murder echoed through the town, but this time, the malevolent force left a haunting clue: the victim's blood, a gruesome canvas for the murderer's message, spelled out a name: Olivia. The realization hit Olivia like a physical blow, the blood draining from her face. "He's coming for me," she whispered, her voice choked with fear. The room seemed to close in around her, and the walls of the studio turned to a claustrophobic cage. The police, now more determined than ever to catch the elusive stranger, descended upon Henry's studio to question Olivia. The air was thick with tension as they discussed the ominous message left at the scene of the crime. Henry, his eyes reflecting a mix of concern and determination, knew they needed more than words to protect Olivia from the looming threat. "We need protection," Henry insisted, his voice unwavering. The authorities, recognizing the severity of the situation, stationed an officer at the building's entrance, a feeble barrier between Olivia and the encroaching darkness. While Henry was out, checking and adjusting the hidden cameras, Olivia sat in the studio, her anxiety escalating with each passing moment. The weight of her name scrawled in blood hung over her like a spectre, and the quiet whispers of impending danger clawed at her sanity. A sudden, shrill ring on the phone cut through the silence, making Olivia jump. With trembling hands, she answered the call, her heart pounding in her chest. A voice, distorted and malevolent, slivered through the receiver. "I'm coming for you, girl. I can't wait to wrap my hands around your throat and squeeze." Terrified, Olivia clutched the phone, her breath caught in her throat. The walls seemed to close in, and every creak and rustle magnified into a sinister prelude to the Strangler's arrival. As Henry entered the studio, he found Olivia in a state of paranoia. Reacting on instinct, she swung a broom at him, the fear in her eyes now directed at the person she should trust the most. Henry, I got a call. He said he's coming for me," Olivia stammered, her voice quivering. Henry, understanding the depth severe terror, approached her cautiously, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Olivia, it's me, you're safe," Henry reassured her, gently taking the broom from her trembling hands. He held her close, promising to protect her from the malevolent force that now had a face, a name, and an insidious connection to their lives. As the night deepened, the studio walls seemed to encase them in an uneasy calm, a fragile sanctuary against the impending storm. The following day arrived with an eerie stillness, and Olivia sought refuge in the fortress of Henry's studio. Every angle of the place was under the watchful eye of hidden cameras, documenting every movement and breath. It provided a semblance of security, a fragile shield against the encroaching darkness. Exhausted and emotionally drained, Olivia attempted to find a brief respite from the unrelenting fear that had become a constant companion. She settled into the corner of the studio, hoping to catch a few moments of sleep. The surveillance system remained vigilant, its electronic eyes scanning the room for any signs of intrusion. As Olivia drifted into a fitful slumber, the ambient hum of the cameras began a lullaby, momentarily easing the tension. However, her fragile sense of security was shattered when she was abruptly jolted awake. Panic seized her as she felt the cold, tightening grip of hands around her neck. Wide-eyed and gasping for breath, Olivia found herself entangled in a nightmare that had become all too real. The room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a claustrophobic trap. The hidden cameras continued to record, capturing the desperate struggle unfolding in the dimly lit space. The room echoed with the hollow sound of her gasps, punctuated by the sinister intent of her assailant. Panic surged through her veins as the reality of the Stranglers' presence materialized. Henry, alerted by the commotion, rushed into the studio. The sight that met him froze his blood. Olivia, gasping for breath, her eyes wide with terror, in the clutches of an unseen force. With a surge of adrenaline, he sprang into action, desperately trying to pry invisible hands from Olivia's neck. The struggle intensified, the room filled with the desperate sounds of a life hanging in the balance. The hidden cameras continued to document the harrowing scene, each frame etching the terror into the digital archive. In that moment of chaos, the line between reality and nightmare blurred, and the insidious force that had haunted their every step finally manifested. The Strangler, an entity woven into the fabric of twisted Yuletide memories, tightened its grip on Olivia, unraveling the threads of their desperate fight for survival. Olivia lay on the floor, gasping for breath, her strength drained from the invisible struggle that had just occurred. Beside her, Henry, equally bewildered and shaken, tried to make sense of the inexplicable events. "What the hell was that?" Henry exclaimed, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "I don't know," Olivia replied, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I could feel hands on my neck, but no one was there." Determined to unravel the mystery, Henry raced to the video hub, his heart pounding with apprehension. "Let's check the recordings," he suggested, a glimmer of hope that they might find answers. The video played back, but all that appeared on the screen was Olivia, seemingly being choked by an invisible force. "I need to get some fresh air," Olivia declared, standing up and making her way to the door. "I'll be back in a moment." Left alone, Henry tried to clear his mind, the day's events weighing heavily on him. He closed his eyes, seeking solace in the brief respite from the relentless nightmare. Later, as Olivia re-entered the apartment, a blood-curdling scream escaped her lips. Henry lay lifeless on the floor, the horrifying realization of his fate sending shockwaves through her. "No!" she screamed, immediately dialing the police for help. Within minutes, officers arrived, and the apartment became a scene of frantic activity as they searched the place. One of the officers noticed the surveillance cameras. "Are these working?" the officer inquired, glancing at Olivia.
"Yes," she replied, her voice trembling. "We can check the footage."
Gathering around the video hub, they played back the recording. Anxiety and anticipation mounting, the footage revealed Henry sitting in a chair, slowly relaxing and drifting off to sleep. Then a chilling turn of events. A figure, wearing a black balaclava, entered the room. Moving with an eerie calm, it reached out, grabbing Henry by the neck and tightening its grip, choking the life out of him. The room fell into a stunned silence as they watched the horrifying scene unfold. "We've got him on tape," the officer stated, a glimmer of relief in their eyes. Then, on the video, the figure approached the camera, its gloved hands reaching up to remove the balaclava, revealing the face beneath. The police officers leaned in, their anticipation palpable. As the balaclava came off, the unthinkable truth was laid bare for all to see. It was Olivia that appeared on the screen. The shock of the revelation sent shivers down their spines, and the room filled with an eerie silence. The terror that had haunted Everwood for so long had found its face, and the line between victim and perpetrator had been irrevocably blurred. Olivia, the woman who had sought refuge from the Christmas Strangler, now stood accused of a horrifying crime, leaving the town to grapple with the chilling reality that evil could reside within even the most unsuspecting of souls. And if you're still looking to fulfill your thirst for more horror, don't forget to check out this next video, unless of course you're frozen with fear already.